morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Happy Thursday. Hope everyone is doing well. So today I want to talk about protecting others, protecting people, protecting, that's the whole, that's the whole purpose of this topic, is because when we attempt, or when we believe, or when we try to protect someone, we're actually harming them. So that's what I want to talk about, how we believe or think that we're protecting someone, but all the while we're harming them. And we don't understand this. And the reason why we don't understand it is because we're taught that when we do certain things, it's to help someone. But in actuality, from God's perspective, from the universe's perspective, from the universal law's perspective, we're harming them. And when we harm another, we harm ourselves. And it's important to understand, because it's hard for us to move forward and improve our soul condition when we're engaging in these small things here and there that keep our progression from moving forward. It keeps us in a degraded state. And so that's what I want to talk about. So the reason why the reason why we get penalized, or we have karma or create karma, the reason why we harm someone when we believe we're trying to help them, is because we're going against the laws. We're not understanding our role as souls, as children of the Creator. We don't understand our role. And so what a lot of us have done is we've tried to take on the parent role, the parental role. And the reason why that is because most of us don't see the Creator as the Creator. We don't see the Creator as the parent. We don't see the laws that are in place, that the Creator put in place in order to correct us. And so what we try to do is we try to become the parent. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make, because the Creator is present, and the Creator has put laws in place to interact with the soul, to correct the soul when the soul does something unloving. But and that's what we don't understand. So what we try to do as human beings on the planet is we try to create our own rules, our own laws, and we try to impose those upon other souls. And when we try to help them, there are laws that are in place that are designed to help the soul, to improve the soul, to save the soul. And what I mean by save, I don't mean the Jesus kind of save. I mean to correct the soul, or to allow the soul to be in a condition where it can correct itself, because the soul is self-correcting. The soul can be self-correcting. You do not need anyone outside of you to fix you or to correct you, because the soul is automatically designed to correct itself. It just needs to understand what the laws are, what the rules are, in order for that correction to happen. And this is one of the reasons why we keep harming ourselves and harming others, is because we don't understand these laws. We don't understand the principles. We don't understand the system. We don't understand the universal structure. And that's why I make these videos, so you understand. That's the only way I have been able to get, or to be different than who I was in the past. Because I'm starting to learn what to do and what not to do. But not just that, understanding why. See, when you go to church and you go to religions and sign up with these different belief systems, they tell you what to do, but they don't explain why. And so the soul has no understanding. It just knows to do X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't know why it's doing X, Y, and Z. So for instance, in a Christian religion, they'll say one of the commandments, that's thou shalt not kill. Well, why shouldn't you kill? Well, because something happens. Well, because you violate so many different laws, you violate so many different rules, you violate each individual person's soul's gift, which is a free will. So if you kill someone, you're taking away their free will, which is their desire to live. So therefore you are in violation of that gift and laws. And so you're not in harmony with the universe. And this is what I'm saying. There's reasons why you do it. And the reason, sometimes they do give you reasons, but it's not the real reason. They'll say if you kill someone, God will be angry at you and punish you. And that's not true. God will not be angry at you, because God understands that you're in a degraded state and you know not what you do in this state. So that's automatic false belief that we hold that disallow us from moving forward. Because if we feel that our parents are mad at us, we feel shame, we feel guilt, we don't feel loved, and all of these emotions come into our being, and we create from that place. We feel like we're not good enough. We feel like we're bad. We feel like, we're unworthy. We feel like we don't deserve. And these are all from that one thing. All from that one thing. That one belief can create all of what I just mentioned. And there's so much more out there that people experience that I haven't even mentioned. So it's important to understand what we're doing. And so the reason why this topic is coming up is because it's happened throughout my whole life. I've seen it all over the place. When my older brother was on drugs, and my mother, as a parent, she thought that she was protecting her son. Sometimes when his parole officer was, looking for him, she would say she didn't know where he was, and he would sometimes be in the back room because she didn't want him to go to prison. To her, that was bad, but at the same time, she thought she was protecting him, but all the while, he was strung out on drugs. And so, at some point, she finally realized, I have to do this. Meaning, we've tried... we tried to set my brother up all kinds of times so that he would get caught. It's like we would call his parole officer and say he's here, and my mom would let him, take a shower or whatever. But my brother was so hip to what was going on, he would jump in that shower and jump out. Like, he was so paranoid. In mid-shower, he would jump out of the shower to look down the hallway to see if there's anybody there, and he would be standing there without any clothes. And this is what I'm saying. Like, this is the chaos that my mother was sustaining, for so long. And then when she realized what she was doing, she tried to correct it. But the thing is, all the while she didn't want him to go to prison, he was out there harming himself doing drugs. Now, I know it's not her fault because it's not her decision for him to do drugs. She would rather him not do drugs. So it's not that she is responsible for it, but she helped sustain it. She knew better. She was in a better place. She wasn't strung out on drugs. She was able to think clearly. She knew what needed to be done, but she didn't want to do that. So she thought she was protecting her son. But at some point she realized, I'm harming my son by letting him be out on the street and have access to drugs. Because he won't go out to a substance abuse program because he didn't feel he had a problem, he wouldn't go, and so he wouldn't get help. So the only way for him to get help was to actually be caught by his parole officer. Now, if you have a parole officer and he's looking for you, that means you violated something. So what my mother had to do is allow that course to just take place. Allow that to take place. She had to go that course, allow him to be on that path to take himself out. Because she was blocking it. The universe was saying, hey, I need to take you off of the street so that you can improve yourself, but your mother's blocking it. That's what was happening. So the interaction that needed to take place was between my brother and his parole officer. And so my mother stopped blocking it and assisted with what needed to take place. And sometimes and that's what I'm saying, we oftentimes believe we're protecting our friends, protecting our family members, and we're not protecting them. We're just prolonging the inevitable. But at the same time, we're also degrading our soul. If the universe says that the person you're trying to protect, and let me make this very clear, you're not protecting, you're concealing. You're not protecting, you're concealing. And if you're concealing, you're in violation. Because anything you try to hide is a violation. It's an unloving thing. Because all things you want to keep in the dark are unloving things that you do not want brought to the light. So if you can look at protection as concealing and love as exposing, then you'll be able to live your life a little differently. You'll be able to interact with people differently. And this is even happening at work. There are people who are not doing what they agreed to do, meaning employment-wise. I work for an agency where we help people who cannot help themselves, simply put. And so we have an obligation, because that's the agreement that we're saying we're going to, that's the agreement we've made in exchange for money. That's the agreement. But when we don't live up to that agreement, when we don't hold up our end of the agreement, we're doing something wrong. If you make an agreement, you have to live up to that agreement. And if you choose not to, you must remove yourself from that place. You must say, I can't do this. I can't hold up my end of the agreement, and now I need to leave. You are not obligated to stay anywhere. You have no obligations. You don't even have an obligation to yourself if you don't want it, but if you choose that path, you will suffer the consequences, because you're not being loving to yourself. And the thing is, if you choose to be loving to yourself, if you want to be loving to yourself, if you desire to be loving to yourself, it's not an obligation. It's a desire. An obligation is when you feel you must do something, regardless if you want to or not. That's an obligation. And the Creator has not created those scenarios where you're obligated to do anything. And that's clear, because we don't take care of ourselves. There's no obligation, but there are consequences, because this is a universe of love. So you must be loving. So what does that look like? It means you must be, if you really want to protect, if you truly want to protect someone from harm, you give them the truth. Because the truth is the only thing that is going to allow them to have a life of well-being. That's the only thing. If you have any falsehoods, if you sustain falsehoods, you're not helping anybody. You're allowing them to sustain harm to themselves, and you're allowing them to sustain harm to others. So, if you really want to protect someone, be truthful, be honest, be upfront, speak the truth, whatever that truth is. Let it be known. Of course, someone may be angry with you. I mean, it happens to me all the time. All the time. Nobody wants to hear it, but I have to say it. I have to say it. I have to speak truth. Why? Because I know that is what is in harmony with the structure of the universe. I'm in harmony with the universe when I speak truth. Why? Because the Creator has created this universe based on truth. Whatever the Creator has put in place is truth. Point blank, period. And the truth is already established. I've said this before. The truth is already established. We do not need to create the truth. We just simply need to seek it out. And once we have it, we have it. But at this point, most people on the planet don't have it, which is why you have umpteen thousand religions on the planet. And they all believe that they have the truth. Which is, and that's why you see the planet in chaos, because most people don't hold it. Out of the umpteen thousand religions, they don't hold it. They may hold aspects of it, pieces of it, but they don't hold it as a whole. And everything, if you want perfection, then you have to have truth as a whole. You have to have it. That's what perfect is. If you have a circle, say a sphere, and there's a piece missing, it is no longer perfect. It is no longer intact. It must be whole. And that's what truth has to be within you, 100%. The whole truth. And like I said, many people don't have it. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. You can't just snap your fingers and say, I'm going to be perfect. There's so much you have to do. There's so much that has been done to degrade your soul to the point that it's in now. There's thousands of generations within your soul of emotional injuries. And they're not so many. They're just the same ones passed down from generation to generation, creating more emotional injuries, creating similar emotional injuries, sometimes creating completely different emotional injuries depending on where you allow your mind to go. You can feel, like I said, you can feel like you're not worthy and not look someone in the eye, and then someone says to you, what do they say? They can say something like, oh, you're not confident, and I can't pick you for this, or you're not this, and whatever. And you can feel something completely different. You can feel anger. Now you have a different emotional injury in your soul. So, I mean, what I'm saying is, we have to be mindful of all the things that are within us. And if we want to protect ourselves, and if we want to protect others, then we have to be truthful. We cannot conceal anything. And when you help someone conceal something that is degraded within them, an aspect of them that is dark, all you're doing is basically saying, I see you're dark, I'm going to help you stay there. And if you really love someone, if you really want to protect someone, you wouldn't allow that to happen. You wouldn't allow that to happen at all. If you truly love them. And that's my whole point is, we don't understand love, and we think we're loving someone when we say we're protecting someone. Who are you protecting? You may be protecting a brother or a sister who is a pedophile. You don't want it to get out, and you think because you're not saying anything about an incident that happened years ago that you're helping the person. Helping them do what? Do it again? Sustaining the pain of the victim? Really? If you know someone has cheated or stepped out on their wife and you're a friend with someone, what do you do? Do you say nothing? People are torn. You tell the truth. You say, hey, look, I'm aware of this, and it's bothering me because I'm your friend and I need to tell you. What you do with it is your business. Now, the person may be angry at you for saying it. The husband or the wife may be angry at you for saying it. But you have to be willing to lose what you have. Because if you lose something, that means it really wasn't what you thought it was to begin with. All the friendships or the things or the relationships that I called friendships that are now gone, they never were. It was an illusion based on an illusion. An illusion based on an illusion. But when I started to become the person that I am today, I had to speak the truth. And I can tell you, there are many people who stopped talking to me, and I didn't even talk to them. It was simply Facebook stuff. When I started saying the truth, they started disappearing. When I started talking about the soul and soul condition, and when people do this and when people do that and how it affects you, they stopped talking to me. Why? Because they saw it in themselves, and they didn't want to be judged. They didn't like what I was saying. And so they left, which told me what? They weren't really friends to begin with. So I was living an illusion based on an illusion. And I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that the people who were in my life are no longer in my life. Because that means the people who wanted to live in dishonesty are no longer surrounding me. The universe took care of it. I didn't have to do anything. I'm starting to realize I don't have to do much of anything. Just simply tell the truth, and people just go where they need to go. And sometimes the universe uses me. Sometimes the universe uses the truth in order to punish other people. And it's not and I shouldn't even say that because it's not punishment. But the universe uses me, someone who is willing to stand in truth, to help someone else see what they're doing. And attempt to help them see what they're doing, I should say. Because people don't always see it. They don't always see it. They receive the message, meaning they got it in the mail, but they're not opening it up. They don't know the contents of it. They're like, oh, I got something, but whatever. Just toss it away. That happens a lot. It happens a lot. And I see it in the workplace a lot. I see and this is common, with every single place that I've ever worked. There's always been this one person who wants to do not even the bare minimum. They just want to, do enough just so that I get fired. It's like they show up. They do busy work, look like they're doing something, but they're not doing what they are expected to do. And the thing is, because it goes unchecked, other people get handed their work. And that's not fair at all. And so that unfairness is able to continue if nobody says something. You have to say something. You're like, hey, look, this is not fair. We are in this together. And we have all agreed, it doesn't matter what employer you work at, we have agreed to do X, Y, and Z. We understand this is what the job entails. We understand this is what you're paying us for. But what you're not paying us for is to do my work and their work. That's what you're not doing, and that's not fair. And you have to know or stand up for yourself in terms of fairness. You don't allow anyone to take advantage of you. And some people see that as, oh, you're complaining. Well, what you're doing is you're exposing something that's unloving. And if the manager or whoever the boss is was any type of ethical person, they would rectify it. And if they don't rectify it, you let someone else know. And that's the position that I'm always in. It's like, look, because my ethics are so solid, they're so strong, and my moral compass is on point, I tend to see things, I tend to see when unfairness is present. When unloving things or actions are present, I can see them very easily, very simply. I can also see the correction for it so that it stops. I can see all of it. But other people can't. And so things go unchecked. And so I'm always in a position where, I have to speak up and say something. Sometimes I speak up for people who cannot speak up for themselves. If you have someone who is, I should say, has developmental issues, mentally developmental issues, and some people may know them as, retarded or something like that, where they don't really understand what's being done to them if something's being done to them. When you see something like that, it's your responsibility to say something, because they are not in any way, shape, or form able to protect or speak up for themselves. So we must, this is why we must speak up for children. We must take up, we must speak up for children. We must do what we can to protect them, because they are innocent. And those who have developmental issues are also innocent. Those who are not able to see things rationally and understand and comprehend, we have a duty as a loving being to ensure that the other person receives love as well. That is something I truly believe, and I don't think anyone out there would disagree. However, there are people out there who will not want to be involved or get involved because of the consequences. The consequences can be dire for someone who speaks up for truth. Then you have to be okay with that. That's the only way you can speak truth. You have to be okay with that. Jesus had to be okay with that. You just simply have to be okay with that. And the only reason why Jesus was okay with that is because he knew that there was no death. He knew there was no death. So he stood up for he stood up for love. He maintained his integrity. And when they thought that they took his life, he still maintained his integrity. And he was okay with what he did. So in order for you to hold truth, you have to be okay with the consequences. Meaning the pushback that you're going to get from the unloving people who don't want to live in truth. I get it all the time. I get it from management. I get it from some coworkers. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay if people hate me. I'm really okay with that. They can hate me. Because I understand the hate. I understand that the hate isn't swirling within me. The discord is swirling within them. If you've ever been angry, you know how that feels. It's not a good feeling. When you don't have control over your anger, your being, you get, it's just an ugly feeling. And if you haven't been angry in a while and it starts swirling around in you, you really feel some kind of way. You're like, ugh. And that's what's happening to them. And I know it's not happening to me. So I'm okay with it, because I'm not feeling the effects of the anger that they're projecting. They may be projecting it, but I'm not receiving it. I see it, but I'm not receiving it. There's a huge difference. Huge difference. So be mindful when you attempt to protect someone, because you don't want to degrade your soul, and you don't want to sustain their degradation. So when you sustain their degradation, you sustain yours, because from God's perspective, from the Creator's perspective, from the universe's perspective, anything you do to contribute to degradation will degrade yourself. Anything that you do to contribute to someone's degradation, you will degrade yourself. That is fact. It is a law. You cannot change it. So you might as well just get on board with it. And that goes for all truths. All truths that the Creator has put in place. You might as well just go on and get on board with it, because you can't change it. And so you're wasting your time being angry. All these people that you hear who say, oh, God isn't loving, I'm angry at God. That's discord within your being. That's your choice. That's your anger. That's your choice to be angry. That's your choice to have discord within you. That's your choice to degrade your soul. It's all our own choice. We're choosing everything in our lives. Everything. The person who you don't like because they're doing something you don't like, that's your choice. You're choosing to hate them. You're choosing to be angry. That's not something that's just happening. That's something you're allowing to happen. We all allow it. If someone doesn't love you and you feel hurt by it, you know, the only reason why people are hurt, including myself, growing up as children, is because we're born with a lack of love and we're seeking it out. Every child that is born, every single child that is born on this planet is born with a lack of love. And this is why they seek approval and love from their parents. That's the only reason. Because they're born with a lack of it. Because of all the things that dwell within their soul that makes it dark. Since they don't have love for self within themselves. Okay, come on. They have to seek it from some other place. If you don't have coffee in your house, you have to seek it from somewhere else. If you don't have it, you have to seek it out. No matter what it is, across the board, every single thing. Love, self-worth, or worth, love, worth, a sense of purpose. If you don't have a sense of purpose, you'll allow someone else to assign it for you. You'll seek out purpose. What do you want me to do? You would say. People who say this do not have a sense of self. They don't have a sense of purpose. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do to help? If you had a sense of self, a sense of worth, you would already know what needs to be done. And you would know the capability that you have to carry it out. That's fact. Think of the times you knew what to do. You just knew what to do. And you did it. See? He's starting with the bullshit. Think about all the times that you ran into a situation and you knew exactly what to do. That's because you knew your value, you knew your worth, you knew what you were capable of, you knew how you can contribute to the situation. You didn't have to ask anybody, what do you need me to do? You just went in and did what you needed to do, or what you felt you needed to do. You contributed because you knew how you could contribute. If you ever ask, what do you want me to do? What do you need me to do? There's a lack of purpose. There's a lack of a sense of purpose, I should say. You should be able to look at a situation, not should be able to, I should take that back. If you know your worth and you know what your purpose is, you will come in and do it. I do it all the time. I'm realizing what my purpose. I laugh at this all the time because I never thought, ever thought that I would be talking about God the way that I talk about God. I mean, everything that I do and say is basically based around universal laws, which are created by God, the Creator, the soul. I mean, I never thought that I would be doing this. I never thought it. And, it's like I realized, that, let me say this, because you heard people say, God has a plan for you. And that somehow goes against free will. Right? And some people believe this. Well, if God has a plan or God has his will for me, then how do I have free will? And I've thought about it and I'm like, I can see how that's logical. The thing is, God has imbued each soul with something different. We all have different capabilities. We all have different gifts, different attributes. Our desires are different. And the desires, all of that that makes us unique, God has already put in. God has done that. God has imbued that within the soul. So before we even incarnate, what the soul has, it's already there. It's like, it's almost like, if you can visualize it like an egg. God created all these eggs, but each egg is different. Kind of, if you look at it like an Easter egg, like each egg has a different design. Each egg is different and brings a unique characteristic to the world. So the soul is already different. But God has given you your free will to do what you choose with those gifts, with those attributes. So you can use them in harmony with love, or you can, for instance, the Creator, some people are just born with clarity. Meaning they can figure things out really quick. Patterns, they can see them, they catch on quickly. That's just part of their gift. Whereas someone may not be able to do that, but they're very artistic. They may be a little slow in catching on and looking at patterns, but they see a different kind of pattern. They can, like that lady I was talking about, she can look at some twigs on the ground and just things that fall from the tree that are basically dead and still make something beautiful out of it. Like, she has that vision. I don't have that vision, but I have logic. I can look at things and see patterns and understand why. That's my gift. It just comes naturally. I don't have to try to do it. I didn't have to go to school. It's always been there. And so we all bring something different to the table. And I have always had my free will. And I have rejected this aspect of who I am based on the emotional injuries that I've had, and that was a choice. I allowed someone else to let me, or I have allowed in the past, I've allowed someone to cause me, I have allowed someone to, how would I word that? I've allowed someone to, how would I word that? That's so strange. Because they didn't do it. They didn't do it. Their action was projected at me, and I then decided to accept it. So, I'm not sure how to word that. That's so strange. It's strange because the reason why it's so strange to say is because what naturally wants to come out is they allowed me to allow, it's almost like they did it, but we're so used to saying it's someone else. Like, I can say it the way someone would understand it, which is someone caused me to look at myself in a different way. But they weren't the cause. They were a component, but I chose to do it. And that's why it's so difficult to say, because our language is not set up for accountability. Our language is set up for blame. Our language is set up to point the finger at someone else. It's not to accept responsibility for our actions. Our language is not set up for that. So that's why I feel like I'm retarded every time I try to say some of these things. Because it's like, well, how do I say that? If it's not the person who's causing me to do it, how do I say they caused me to do this, or they forced me to do this, or they did this to me? They didn't do anything. I chose it. That's the thing, and that is something that's extremely difficult. Oh, she bumping her little music, or her little pigs in the window. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, we're all different. And the free will thing is, we just simply have the choice to use our gifts, our talents, our abilities, or ignore them. That's the free will choice we have. We can know that it's there and use it in harmony with love to make ourselves happy, or we can ignore them to make someone else happy. And that's generally what happens. We ignore our gifts to make someone else happy. We make ourselves small to make someone else happy. We even do this to so-called protect someone. Oh, I don't want to be too smart because they may feel bad. I want to protect their feelings. Really, people do this all the time. I still battle with that. I have to make myself small because I know if I am myself 100% all the time, 24/7, or when I'm awake anyway. Well, even in the spirit world, so yeah, 24/7. Someone may feel less than, and I don't want to make them. And it's really not them feeling less than. I don't want to receive the condemnation that I have received as a child, because as a child, I was always told things like, oh, you think you're so smart, you really smarty pants, a know-it-all. Like, this always happened. And I didn't like that feeling. And so I was living based off of how they wanted me to feel. Meaning I was living my life based on how they felt. Their insecurity, their insignificance, their lack of this and that and the other is what they didn't want to see or feel. So they try to project something upon me so that I felt like they felt. That was their whole goal. They didn't know it. It wasn't so clear in their mind. All they knew is, I don't like feeling less than, so I'm going to have to say something to you so you stop it because I don't like the way that feels. That's exactly what was happening. And I'm so glad I made this video today because I made it so much clearer for myself. Because now I understand, because I don't think I've ever said it aloud like that. I had not ever heard it put in that way. Like, you know, you have something in your mind, but you have to say it. You really have to say it. You have to hear yourself say it, because that what you say to yourself, that what you say aloud, you believe. Which way am I going? Let's see, 734. I'm gonna change 734. It still says a 110. I guess the 10 is really bad. I'll take it. I'll take the 110. Well, this looks stopped. I don't know. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna. Look, my spidey senses says don't do it. Don't do it. What was I saying? So, you know, I'm glad I said it out loud, because sometimes, you know, you say it in your mind, but you really have to say it out loud in order for it to stick, to really hear it. Because the things that we speak, it's like it's solidified. We solidify it for ourselves. This is why people, they say affirmations, because you want to hear it. You want it to be solidified. Now, the issue with affirmations is you can say it all day, all day, all day, all day, all day, but if you don't believe it, if you don't feel it, it's not going to stick. Now, I want to believe what I'm saying. I know it's true, but it must be solidified. And in order for it to be solidified, it has to push out the false belief that I've had in the past. So the emotional injuries that I hated, or I didn't like feeling, yes, at the time I hated feeling that way when someone would try to tear me down or put me down for something that was great within me, I didn't like that feeling. And so as an adult, my soul, it's still within my soul, and I don't want to experience that. So that's why I don't allow myself to be myself all the time. And that's something I still have to work on. And I know that's something a lot of people have to work on. I know some people that I talk to on a daily basis. They need to work on that. And it's just something that you have to work out. Yeah. So, when you're trying to protect someone, tell them the truth. That's how you're really going to protect them, is to tell them the truth. If there's someone at work who there has been a lot of complaints about that person, and apparently they're saying that she's mean, and she doesn't believe she's mean. And she's asking people, can you believe, can you believe that people don't think I'm a nice person? This person's a monster. I mean a monster. Darkness, I mean dark. Dark. Super dark. I mean super dark. And it blows my mind. It's like this person is super dark and vindictive and just flat out evil. And this person is working at a place where we're meant to help people and lift people up? Sheesh. wow. That really blows my mind sometimes, because it's like crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. How are you going to be so dark and claim to help people? And that's the illusion. That's how strong the illusion is for that person. That's how strong the illusion is for that person. And that's what I'm saying, is like, you have to be honest. Even if they don't want to accept it, be honest, because if many people are saying the same thing, at some point it may click, like, I may need to take a look at this. I may need to look at this, because people are telling me this left and right. I need to investigate. What am I doing that, what do they see, or what am I doing that would cause them to say that? And this is what we have to come to. We have to come to that place. But if you are not honest with someone, how are they ever going to see it? That's what I mean. You sustain their darkness. You must give them the truth without the expectation that they're going to accept it in the moment. Give them the truth, because you never know when your truth is going to be part of a bigger picture for them. Because maybe 4 or 5 people already told them the same thing, and you're the final person that they need to hear it from in order for them to look at themselves. Self-reflection, self-analysis. Maybe you're that person, or maybe you're the second to the last person. You just never know. But it doesn't matter. We're not doing it for you. We're doing it for the other person. If you say you really love and want to protect the other person, this is what you do. You give them what they need when they don't understand what they need. Because a person who is a degraded, they don't understand that they're degraded. A person who is a degraded, they don't understand how dark. I'm sorry. When a person is dark, they don't know that they're dark. When they're harming people, they don't know they're harming people. Some people are completely oblivious to this. And the only way they're going to see it is if you tell them you see it. If you really love someone, you would tell them. And if they don't want to hear it, then just respect that. But you must be honest. If they don't want to talk to you anymore, then fine, so be it. But at least you maintain your integrity. You maintain truth and love for them. And that means you maintained it for yourself, and your soul doesn't darken. But when you play along, when you go along just to get along, you harm them and yourself, and you don't know it. And you'll experience karmic experiences, painful experiences, and you won't know why they're happening. Most karmic experiences that people experience, they don't know why they are happening. They are completely lost. They're like, why is my life shit? Why is my life like this? Why is it so difficult? Why is it so hard? And the only answer to that is that they are not aware as to what dwells within their soul. They've been living life a certain way all this time, not understanding. So if you have a clear understanding, and you love someone, and you love yourself, you will speak the truth. They may say, you're crazy. No, I'm not. I mean, I've said it to this person before, and they're like, that's not true. And allow them to deny it. You have to allow them to deny it. But the truth is, the best part about it is, you're giving them something to deny aloud. You're giving them something to deny aloud. Like I said, when you say it, it solidifies itself. So every time, if you feel that you have to constantly defend yourself, constantly say, no, it's not, no, I'm not, no, it's not, no, I'm not, no, it's not, no, I'm not, you start to hear a pattern. You're like, I'm constantly defending myself. And then if someone says, gosh, I just don't understand, people keep saying this to me. And then they may get that one person that says, the one person that says, oh, this man threw me off. I started thinking about his soul condition. And he didn't throw me off. I threw myself off because I allowed my thoughts to be here. Now I lost my whole thing. What was... Oh, if they're venting to someone and they say, I don't understand why people keep saying these things about me. They may get that one person who says, well, have you thought about what they said? like, have you really thought about it? Like, if someone's saying the same thing to you all the time, there must be a truth component to this. Have you looked at what they're saying? Well, no. Well, let's check it out together. Like, what are they saying? Well, they're saying this and that and this and that and this and that. And then that person may be able to say, but I see that in you. I see that in you. I see why they're saying that. I've never said anything to you, but I see why they're saying that. I'm saying it to you now. I see it. They're not telling lies. This is what they see, and this is what I see. And this will, it may be that moment that they're able to see something and help themselves. I knew this was going to happen. Gosh, my stomach. I'm so hungry. I need breakfast. I need breakfast. So, be mindful of that. If you believe that you're protecting someone, the only way to truly protect someone is to be honest with them, to be truthful, not to conceal their unloving ways or unloving deeds. Like I said, there's someone at work who is not living up to their agreement, and because of that, other people are suffering. So they claim that they're here to work to help people, to make their lives better, but in actuality, they're sustaining their degradation. They are sustaining their degradation because they're sustaining their degradation. We cannot help someone if we do not have it within ourselves. We can't do it. And I understand that's the law of attraction. I completely understand that the person who works for the agency who isn't helping is because the person who is in our program doesn't feel that they are worthy of help. Now, I understand that. I understand that because there's a racial issue involved in this as well. And what is that meant to do? Well, it's meant to trigger the anger for those who have experienced racism. So when you help people who are only the same color as you, but you don't help people who are different colors than you, that's racism. And when other people see it, they feel some kind of way about it. And that emotional injury, that trigger, I should say, is triggering the emotional injury that's within them. So, of course, her presence is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be there. That's supposed to happen. It wouldn't happen if they were that person wouldn't even be there for that. If the person was in a good, other people around them were in a good soul's condition. I see this stuff all the time. All the time. People get so angry because of this whole racism thing, and they're supposed to be triggered in that way to loosen up the emotion that's within them. They're supposed to. That's the whole point of all these events that we have is to loosen up. It's like phlegm in the chest and the lungs, you know. It's supposed to, your coughing is supposed to loosen it up so you get it out. But some people don't want to cough. And some people, when they do cough, they swallow it again. They keep it in. And that's really no different than the emotional injury. It's being triggered. It's being loosened. It's like, okay, it's right there. You may want to cry. You may want to feel some kind of way about it. Release the emotion, and you hold it in. And anyone who holds phlegm within, oh, God, they just remain sick. They remain sick. And that's with any foreign object within the body that's not supposed to be there. You will remain sick. And it's the same thing with the emotional injuries. As long as they remain in the soul, you will remain sick. Your soul will remain degraded. If you allow degradation in your soul remains degraded. If you allow unloving things within your soul remains unloving. And that's why you yell at your children, or you yell at coworkers, or you yell at friends, or you yell at family. That's why you take it out on them, because you've allowed that within your soul and you won't get rid of it. And that is the consequence of that. meaning you hurt others don't want to feel that pain, and they leave you, and then you feel abandoned. But why? You created it. You created it. Wow, people. Wow. I understand it's hard for people to see this. I'm just grateful that I'm able to see it. I'm also happy and joyful that I'm able to see it. I don't know what God imbued into this soul, into my soul. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm grateful for it, because I was born like this. Born like this, born this way. Is that Lady Gaga's song? I was born this way. I was born this way. If I wasn't, then I wouldn't have been told all the things that I was told growing up. Smarty pants, you think you know it all, blah, 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 blah. Yep. If it weren't true, I wouldn't have been told that as a child. I was born with this because it wasn't something that I developed. Some people are just born with certain things. Artistic. They're born with artistic capabilities. Artistic. Not autistic. Artistic. So, and even autistic people have an ability to, because autism is not something that comes from the creator. It's something that comes from the degradation of the parents, generation upon generation upon generation of soul transference. But someone who's autistic can have the ability to draw and sketch and create amazing things, because that is the gift that has been given to that soul. That is the one of the attributes or characteristics of that soul, to be able to do that. And the thing is, depending on the spectrum of the autism that a person has, they will be blocked from absorbing anything that prevents that gift from coming out. And so that's one of the reasons why someone who's autistic can be so great at something, because they lack, and this is kind of interesting, because new agers believe that it's a blessing. It's a gift from God. But what's really happening is that the gift that the soul has been given, or the gifts and the attributes and characteristics and abilities that the creator has imbued within that soul, is able to express them, because they're not able to absorb all the negative energy as we absorb it. Like, someone can say you're an asshole and you feel some kind of way about it, and you actually feel less than. Well, someone who is autistic won't be able to receive that in that way. Therefore, they're not affected in that way. They're affected in other ways, so that means they can't really have a normal relationship. They may be able to find their soulmate, they may not, but they won't be able to have the full experience that we are capable of having. And that's the interesting thing, is that we are capable of having a full-on experience, but we choose to not do that, because we choose to hold on to the things that the autistic person cannot hold on to. We choose to hold on to that, where an autistic person doesn't have a choice. That can't be absorbed, meaning they can't have the feeling of love, the feeling of compassion, the feeling of sympathy. Some of these autistic children can't have that, and that's something that we have. We are able to express that. We're able to experience that, and so we aren't on the spectrum. Like, we have the ability to experience it all in physical form. In physical form, we can experience all of this, and we choose not to. And this is why you see autistic children or autistic people enjoy life in a way that we can't, because we're choosing. For them, you say, a new age person may say, oh, wow, it's such a beautiful thing. It's a gift, or a gift from God. All souls are gifts from God. All children who come in and incarnate are gifts. We just mess them up. But we have to have the full understanding as to what's going on, because what perfection looks like is someone who can express themselves in their way like an autistic person can, but also experience life to the fullest like someone who isn't autistic. That's perfection. To be able to love freely and accept and be able to carry out your gifts and dreams and desires. That's what perfection is. To not have any pain, to not have any doubt. So the autistic person won't have doubt, because the person can't even accept the unloving things that you're projecting at them in order to have doubt. They just want to do their thing. They don't care. They can't accept. They can't. It's almost like they can't assimilate any data other than their desire. They can't. They can't see if they hurt someone. They don't understand it. But you do. We do. People who are not on the spectrum, we understand if we hurt someone. We just don't care. There's a complete difference. Complete difference. So, anyway, I know I got off track, but that's all I have to say for that. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. It's Thursday. And I will talk to you guys later. All right, take care. Bye now.